Thank you, everyone, for joining us today at our PMG Incredibly Useful Online Training Series. And this is our second training session, and it is how to best use postal logistics in your direct mail program. And your instructors today are Elise Buck and Debbie Sylvester from MailSmart Logistics. So I'm going to hand it over to Elise, who will get us started, but feel free to put any questions in the chat, and we'll be taking a look at those. And if it makes sense to answer them while we present, we'll do that. And then we'll cover any additional questions at the end. So I think we can get started. Hold on, Elise, I'm letting in a few more people.
Sure.
Because this is such a popular session. They're showing up in droves. All right. Okay.
There we are.
There we are.
Ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, awesome.
You can go ahead and introduce yourselves with this slide.
Okay, excellent. I'll go ahead and introduce myself first, and then when Debbie steps up to talk, she can talk about a little bit about her background. But good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our postal logistics exploration, if you will. My name is Elise Buck. I've been with the PMG family for 9 years, and I work in client services for MailSmart Logistics. And I'm looking down at Debbie and I's combined years of postal experience, 64 years, and it's amazing because we're both 30, so that is awesome. So I hope you all enjoy. Thank you for being here. We're going to make this go super quickly, but we want to cover a lot of stuff. We are going to have a Q&A at the end, and if you feel a question coming on, please put it in the chat box. We will do the Q&A at the end, but if there's something that we're going to be monitoring, and we'll try to address it as we go through, but if not, we'll cover it at the end. So thank you so much for being here. So here's today's outline, and first thing we're going to cover is the benefits of postal logistics. We're going to explore the 4 ways to save big on postage: commingling, drop shipping, less than a truckload, also known as LTL, and hybrid solutions. We're going to show how a postal analysis can reveal the best approach for your mailings. We're also going to talk a bit about what to look for in your postal logistics partner. And then we're going to give some pro tips, and hopefully these are insightful takeaways for you and your team. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So next slide. So why is postal logistics so important? Well, number one, it reduces your postage costs. That's a big one. Secondly, faster and more predictable delivery. It allows you to track your mail all the way through, and it is especially critical now. We just had one postage increase last month, and we have another increase that's looming on the horizon this summer. So those 2 things combined, along with the current state of the USPS and their service issues. So we wanted to start with some postal lingo. I imagine we've got a variety of people on this call with us today that are at different parts of their career and how many years they've been serving, or they may be new to postal logistics. So we want to walk through the lingo. The first one we're going to cover is the origin, also known as entry point. This is where mail is delivered to your mail shop's local post office. Next is work share. You're going to hear the word work share. This is mail preparation or mail processing, which is normally performed by the USPS that the postal logistics services provide. Your mail shop provides this, and your postal logistics mover provides this. Next is the DNDC, the Destination Network Distribution Center. It's an automated distribution facility, and a mailer can enter mail directly here, but only for marketing mail. Next is the DSCF. This is the Destination Sectional Center Facility, sorry. It's a USPS mail processing hub, and it's designated by the first 3 digits of your zip code. A mailer can enter mail directly here as well, and again, only for marketing mail. And then the last one here is the DDU, known as the Destination Delivery Unit. This is the local post office that delivers mail to our residences. Next, we want to show you how your mail moves through the USPS system. This is an example that we find you start at your mail shop and then it moves through the process. So it goes from the mail shop to the local post office. But I must tell you at this point, your mail shop and a lot of mail shops are taking your mail directly to the origin SCF. They're not necessarily stopping at the local post office, but some mail shops are. So we just wanted to be clear to that for any mail shops that are on the line. From the post office, it goes to the origin SCF, then to the origin NDC, the destination NDC, the destination SCF, then your local post office. And then once it reaches your local post office, it's usually, can we just go back? Thanks.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's usually about 1 to 2 days before it goes in home. Recently, as we've seen, the USPS delivery has been taking a lot longer. So that's why this is a slower process. It's more costly, it's unpredictable, and it's inconsistent delivery, as we found. Now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Debbie Sylvester.
Hi. So I'm Debbie Sylvester, Vice President of Sales with Postal Logistics. And
Debbie, your sound is a little bit off. I think we need to do a little sound check.
hello.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. I'm Debbie Sylvester, Vice President of Sales with MailSmart Logistics. Excited to do this presentation, and this is a perfect place for me to segue because I have been selling commingling services since 1996. So imagine for these past years, I get to save clients money through postal logistics. It's a pretty exciting job. We're going to move on to 4 ways to save big on postage. All of these are work shares, which Elise had discussed before. Work share means the mailer does some of the work for the post office, thus the post office gives them a discount. The 4 ways are commingling, drop shipping, less than a truckload, and hybrid solutions. We're going to visit each of these and the advantages and how to get this done. Commingling. Commingling is a process whereby your letter mail gets commingled with other mailers' mail to get it closer to the intended zip code. It delivers mail faster and more predictable because, as you can see on this chart here, you're skipping multiple steps, which I'll go over with you shortly. But also critical is there's a greater postage savings. So as Elise discussed with the local entry process, your letter shop, if they're using local entry or entry point, are going through a bunch of postal facilities to get it to the destination and SCF. In commingling, 90+% of the mail is going to the destination SCF, then to the local post office and in home. Thus, it's not only probably faster delivery, but more predictable delivery. What mailings can be used for commingling? Letter-sized mail, commercial and or nonprofit mail. Your postal logistics provider can give you the minimum and maximum sizes for these letters. I do want to mention this because I take this call all the time. Can you commingle flats? There are several vendors that will commingle flats, but it's very labor intense, that's thus very costly. So as long as you can put an IMB on your mail and sort it, you're better off using that method versus commingling. The only time commingling flats would be effective is if you don't have the ability to put an IMB on there. Commingling myths debunked. This is probably my favorite slide because I've been up against this since 1996. Number 1, you have to pay inbound freight to get your mailing to the commingling companies. Most comminglers do not charge for pickup. It's incorporated as part of their services and pricing. Number two, smaller mailings are too expensive to commingle. When you look for a partner in commingling, you want to get a cost per piece based upon total volume for the year with no minimum size jobs. And actually, the smaller the job, the greater the savings per piece. Myth number three, commingled mail takes longer to be delivered. That definitely is not the case. You're bypassing many of the USPS steps. 90+% of the mail goes directly to the destination SCF, with the balance going to the destination NDC. Number four, you risk losing control of your mail with commingling. And those of you that have been in the business for a long time, we'll go back to even the early 2000s when especially, you felt like with commingling, you didn't know where your mail was. It was in a vacuum somewhere. Well, and the old letter shop reply was, well, here's the 3602. Well, that meant absolutely nothing. Now, commingling provides real-time 24/7 tracking of every piece of mail as long as you or your provider is tracking that mail. The next method of postal logistics is drop shipping. It delivers mail deeper into the mail stream to the end destination. You always have to factor in the freight cost as well as the postage discount. It speeds up your delivery. Once again, if you look at the chart, you see that you're going to bypass a lot of steps and go directly to the destination NDC or the destination SCF, and there's greater postage savings with drop shipping. What mailings can use drop shipping? Large volume national mailings, mailings concentrated in specific areas, regions, or states. Both letters and flats can be drop shipped depending on the quantity and the density of area that you're mailing to. More postal logistics solutions. Less than a truckload. That's a great method for smaller, time-sensitive mailings concentrated in an SCF or NDC. A good example would be an insurance company that is targeting a specific state. It would expedite the delivery as well as get it to the SCF. Could be as little as 20,000 pieces. Hybrid solution. This is a great method. It's a combination of commingling and drop shipping, which could be the best approach for your mailing depending on the characteristics of your mail file. A postal analysis will reveal the most cost-effective solution. Let's look at some examples. In this example, there are 164 pieces, and we're going to go through every method. Entry point. The postage cost would be 0.163. Drop shipping would be $14.95. Commingling would be 1370. So in this particular instance, commingling is absolutely the best solution for postage savings, and you would save almost $4,800 on this particular mailing. Example number 2 is a little more intricate. We're going to take a look at, there are 4 different kits here, and we're going to look at entry point, drop ship, commingle, and a hybrid solution. So if you take a look at a total on the entry point, the postage cost would be 1577. Drop ship would be 1335. Commingle would be 1414, and a hybrid solution would be 132. Once again, we're going to go back to what I discussed on those kit C and D. You'll see that they would go out drop ship. Once again, large national mailings, and that absolutely would be the best method to go. Once you run through some of these analysis, you'll get a better feel for how your mailings You know, maybe in your particular case, anything under 400,000, you could take a look at drop shipping. But then again, it depends on your commingle costs. So that's why it's best to run an analysis.
Before we get to the next slide, we can leave that slide up. Thanks, Polly. That's fine.
Sure.
There's a question that we have, Debbie. Would you mind, what's the difference between commingling and drop shipping?
Okay. So commingling is where your mail goes to a facility and it's mixed with other mailers' mail. So at the letter shop level, there's no acceptance of the mail with the USPS. The acceptance of the mail is done at the commingler. With drop shipping, your mail is actually sorted and accepted at the post office, and then an outside freight company comes in, picks up that mail, takes it to their consolidation center, and then distributes the mail to the NDC or SCFs. Does that answer the question?
Excellent, thank you. So now we want to talk about the postage treatments. And now we've saved, you guys have looked at you've analyzed your data, you know where you want to put your postage money, and you get to the moment where you're fixing the postage to your piece and something goes awry because you don't have the right permit or coverage that you need in order to present your mail to the USPS. So we just wanted to talk for a second about use of a pre-canceled stamp, whether it's for nonprofit or commercial mail. So standard mail, both nonprofit or commercial. If you're using a stamp, and no other method of affix, no mailer's cancellation, no nothing else, you must have a name, the company name and the address on the outside of the carrier envelope, either in the front or the back flap. And if you look at the sample above, Easter meal, above that was the name of the organization and their address. So it's really critical that that's presented either on the front or the back flap. If you're using no name and address, no organization name or address, you must use a mailer's cancellation over top of your stamp and or meter. And then inside the component must contain the full name of your organization and the address. This is all about the USPS being able to find you or find your mail provider if there's a problem that goes awry down the line when it's in the mail stream, if that makes sense. Next, we're talking about the use of a permit, or also known as an indicia. The same thing with marketing mail, whether it's nonprofit or standard, is that if you use a permit and you do not have the name and address on the piece, on the outer piece, your permit needs to be permit number, city, and state. If you use a company org, or known as a company org permit, and it just contains the name of the organization, the name and address must be on the outside of the piece in order for the post office to identify it. This happens with even the most seasoned mailers. We're in the midst of it, we're getting things done, and we're like, oh my gosh, we use a company org permit, what do we do? And then, you know, your mail shop can step in and spray the name and address on the back of the flap or what have you. So we just felt this was really important to cover. There's other types of postage treatments, so if you have any questions on that, let us know. Next, we're going to talk about what to look for in a postal logistics partner. There's so many things to consider, whether you're commingling, drop shipping, doing a hybrid solution. So these are some of the most pertinent questions we feel would be good for you to ask when you're interviewing or looking for a new postal logistics provider. When you're considering commingling, you want to ask if they offer multiple mail drops throughout the week. If you're drop shipping, you want to ask, do they offer multiple trips to the NDC SCF weekly? You also want to find out how many pieces of equipment do they have at their facilities? Do they have enough resources to perform your work, other people's work, especially during peak volumes like late summer and fall? We know how crazy it can get. And do they have a strong contingency plan in place if something goes awry if they need to send mail elsewhere to be processed. So always ask what their contingency plan is. For commingling, it's important to know how the mail is transported and whether they're using trucks or rail. Some of it is a combination, but it's really important to know. So just keep in mind that when you ship by rail, it delivers to the NDCs and SCFs more slowly than when you're using trucking. Next is, do they have an optical character reader, or better known as OCR equipment, to apply barcodes if your barcodes are unreadable once it gets to the your processing center. So keeping in mind, not just maybe it's smeared, but what if the wrong service type ID was put in and you're mailing a nonprofit rate mail and you've got the first class standard service type ID within the IMB, then they're going to need to put a barcode on. And last, what do they do with non-automated mailing pieces? Are they mailed? You need to ask these questions.
Elise, there's a question that came over the chat. Why is rail delivery selected versus trucking? I guess that, like, why would you choose rail delivery? Why would a supplier use rail delivery versus trucking? I guess.
I can take that question, Polly.
Sure.
Because it's significantly cheaper. So in essence, you get what you pay for, cheap, slower delivery.
Very succinct.
Excellent. All right, so we'll move along here. Bear with me.
Elise, that was a great job. I don't think you left anything out. And I think all of those points are good and strong and important. And they never seem to be a problem until they are a problem. But excellent job on that list of things to look at when you're looking for a provider, especially since I've been doing this for so long. It's never a problem till it's a problem. Anyway, one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is postage is one of the largest line items in your direct mail budget, and that I think sometimes mailers really don't pay attention to this. I think people are getting more savvy, but to me, I don't know why you wouldn't really scrutinize your mail to squeeze every penny that you possibly can. So your Postal Logistics partner should analyze your mailing data before you begin the production process to see the largest possible postage saving for each campaign, whether it should be drop shipped, commingled, but also, and Elise will get into this, putting an extra insert in the envelope could turn it from a letter to a flat. So I just say concentrate on postage, concentrate on postage, concentrate on postage, because I think it's such a large part of the budget.
And Debbie, could you speak to the way that logistics partners can look at individual mailings, but do you also look at like an overall annual program at all?
Well, not an overall program. We do want an approximate volume. I think that's a really good way to get pricing, is not on a job by job basis, but let's say, ABC mailer projects that they're going to mail 20 to 25 million pieces. So that gives you the all-in cost. How to analyze the data is they can take a file from last year or a previous job. You don't even need a live file, because it's probably not going to vary that much. And they can take a look at that even beforehand and say, hey, commingle is the way to go, or drop ship is the way to go, or a hybrid approach is a way to go. So they should have software tools that they're able to do that.
Excellent, thank you. First of all, does everyone like this image of Debbie inside the mailbox?
I just want to go on record here. Debbie got the best avatars. I'm just saying.
Sometimes I feel like that is my life, inside the mailbox, but
that's all of our lives.
One of the things, especially with COVID and some of the situations that have arisen from that, always I felt very strongly about this, but with the state of the post office lately, I even feel stronger that due to the slow delivery of marketing mail, we absolutely recommend that you do some postal logistics service instead of the local entry point. It always was critical, but with what's happening with the post office right now, it's incredibly important to take a look at using some form of postal logistics. Whether it's commingling or drop shipping, depending on your mailing, it skips multiple facilities in the USPS, getting it closer to the destination. And it's going to definitely keep delivery times more consistent and on schedule. Every time you skip a postal facility, you've got a lot more control over what can happen there. And now we have pro tips from Elise.
Thanks, Deb, and thank you for those tips, Debbie. Those were extremely, extremely important, extremely. So we always have to remind ourselves to keep those things in mind. So my first tip is you should have accountability of your mail through your provider. So your postal logistics provider either provides you with tracking services themselves or partners up with someone that can provide you with those services. It's really important. And sometimes we think I'm focused on tracking my nonprofit outbound mail and letter rate and doing my thing. And you've got all your other mail that you're mailing, your first class mail and your flats. All of that can be tracked too. And it's a great resource, and your logistics provider or your mail tracking service should be able to track all of your mail going outbound. My next tip is always consider and review the weight and size of your direct mail package before production to avoid unknowingly put the piece into another class of mail. And Debbie touched on this earlier, and it's something that we, whether we've been in the business for 2 years or 20 years, it can happen. Know that your postal logistics partner and the USPS mail design analysts are there for you to provide expert guidance. Keeping in mind, like people, if you're inserting a coin or if you decide last minute that you want to throw in an extra insert, is it going to make your package too heavy if you're already at the weight limit? Or is it going to not fit through the mail slot, and then it forces it into going into a flat? We recently had a client that had this issue, but fortunately a majority of the mail did go through and they were able to get it through without any issues. But always in the beginning, it's something that your production team talks about. And when you're at design stage, think about what you're designing and making sure that the piece is, if you're going for a number 14 and you really want to jump out, but you want to keep it at letter rate, keep all those things in mind when you're preparing your plans.
Excellent. Elise, we have another question that's come in. Are there any delays on the trucking or commingling side with the pandemic? Because obviously the USPS has some delays and hot spots and so forth, but are we finding that commingling suppliers and trucking companies, are they doing okay under the circumstances?
I know that we're finding that there were more issues within the SCFs, NDCs, the USPS postal facilities, where they had to separate their folks to follow COVID rules. So the processing got slowed down. So we did see some dips in that. We also know, and I think that everybody's worked through it. There were delays with trucking because there were people calling in sick, so they didn't have as many drivers to take things across the country. As far as the mail, definitely was affected because we found that we were getting it there, but the time it took, once for our experience, and I think even some other some competitors have talked about getting it from the NDC SCF to the post office and into home, there's been a little bit of a delay in there, but I think that it's starting to improve. Maybe Scott or Debbie could speak to it a little further.
Yeah, I'll definitely speak about that. I actually was on the phone with a colleague in the drop ship business this morning, and we both agreed the commingle mail seems there are delays, no denying that, but not as severe, simply because you're getting that mail to the SCF in 90% of the cases. So once again, the closer that you get to the DDU and then in home, the less chance you have it's only going through one facility. And also when it's commingled, a large percentage of that mail is in 5-digit trays, which means the post office doesn't have to rerun that mail as many times. So the commingled mail has not really been affected as greatly. I will tell you though, the local entry mail has been out of control slow, because remember, you're going to go to the local post office and the origin SCF and then the NDC and then the nationwide NDC. So commingled mail has not been greatly affected as other means of getting mail there, like the local entry process. The same thing with the drop shipping, whether you go NDC or SCF, once again, you're skipping quite a few steps. The biggest impact has been on the local entry mail during COVID.
That's good to know. Thank you. We have a few more questions that have come in here. What's involved getting started with Postal Logistics? And do nonprofits or agencies or other groups, do they need to make a lot of internal changes to start working with a postal logistics partner? And how does that impact the relationship and the coordination they already do with the letter shop that they have?
So Polly, I think I should talk from a sales perspective and Elise should talk from a customer service perspective. You know, it should be easy for the customer. And there are many interesting things that happen when you partner with a, postal logistics company. Number one is you're going to have a flat rate for mail. So it's not going to be, if you do business with ABC, it's one price. If you do business with CDF, it's another price. It's uniform pricing. It's policing on some level the letter shops to make sure that that mail really is going out exactly when it's supposed to be. And it should be easier for the client than it currently is. So that's my sales end of how it is to get started. Simple. But I'll turn it over to Elise to get a client service perspective on how easy it should be to work with a vendor.
Right. So, we, as Debbie says, your postal logistics provider, they should make it as easy as possible for you to make the switch. And working in unison with their letter shops, it should be a change of, I'm sorry, I have a mailing at ABC Letter Shop, and I would like this logistics partner to pick it up. It should be as straightforward as that, and it depends on the client. If you're an agency, if you want your mail shops to handle the communication directly with the commingling or dropshipping provider, or if you want to coordinate it directly yourself, if you're a nonprofit. And again, you want your letter shops to talk directly to your partner, just to keep yourself involved in the process. But whether you just basically say, I want this provider to pick it up, there are some things you have to do as far as depending on the provider, your logistics provider, how they need the mail. Some need m.dat files, some don't need anything. It runs the gamut. So you want to get the parameters of what the criteria is that you'll need in order to make a switch to a postal logistics provider. But it really should be effortlessly for you. Sorry, that's a big word. And I hope that answers. Does that answer the question?
I think so. I think probably people will wonder, like, is this like a whole nother relationship and a whole new set of tasks and to-dos that I have to handle on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to being something that really is easier and is taking more off of my plate?
I think that the postal logistics provider should be a complement to what you're doing. There's always going to be a little bit of a pain as far as getting it set up. But make sure, get those things should be set up in advance, asking all the questions. and then bringing the parties together so that they know that they're involved, and then you pulling the switch to say, this is my provider, please get it picked up. It should be as simple as you putting it on your purchase order that you send over to your mail shop, that this is your provider picking up. But there's a little bit of homework to do in the beginning, and you do want to ask, when we were saying it on our screen that talked about the questions that you want to ask your potential partner, go down that list of things, and then also ask them, okay, what's involved? How involved do I need to be? Can you all handle it for me? Can I just, bring you two together, CC me on the communication, and you all work together? That's how it should work. Is that better?
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you.
I see a comment can't come over on the chat if you want to just mention
So there are
that.
a couple of things.
Yeah.
Katie said that from her experience, she says, I would say it reduces day-to-day work since you won't have to RFQ a bunch of vendors for postage. Thank you for that insight, Katie. There's also another question, Elise. Did you want to address that one?
Regarding the difference between letter and flats?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes. So what's the difference between letters and flats? So standard letter, there's minimums and maximums to the standard letter size, whether it's nonprofit or commercial. So the minimum is 3.5 by 5, and the maximum is 6 1/8 by 11.5. That's as large as you can get to be considered standard mail. Once you go over that size, it becomes a flat. And what you see a lot in the mail are 9 by 12s and 8.5 by 11s, and or jumbo postcards. But we know that the larger mail does stick out in the mail, in the person's mailbox. But that's the criteria. And also there's a maximum weight that you can have as well with standard mail, which is, I believe they increased it. Somebody correct me, is it 3.3 or 3.5 in weight? Anybody? Okay, I know everybody's muted. And there's also,
we can do the follow-up in the
3.5
resources. We will include some of those specifics so it's clear and accurate.
3.61 or something like that.
okay, thank you guys. And also with standard, the packet should be no more than 1/4 inch thick, 0.25 in thickness. All right.
That's great. Well, I think we, and yes, we're definitely sending out the slides and some other resources for you after the session. And I'm going to go to the next slide, Elise and Debbie, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Oh, and here you go. Here's our list of resources. So Elise, did you want to just go over those quickly?
Yes, thank you. Again, thank you for being here. And next week, we're going to follow up with our training deck. We'll have a written up Q&A follow-up. We're going to send you a postal logistics checklist as a PDF, and you're also going to get a certificate of course completion. We encourage you, if you have any questions, Debbie's information is on here. And if for some reason Debbie's not available, she'll shoot it over to me and you can contact me. And if you know me and you know my email, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
And right in the meantime here too, Scott, our colleague, has clarified the maximum thickness and size, and he put that in the chat. So thank you, Scott, for doing that.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Yeah, 6 1/8 by 11.5, right?
So Elise and Debbie, it's 1:40, and this is great because I know people love to get a little bit of bonus time back in their day. But do you have any other points that you want to make or anything to share with our group here today?
I do have something I want to say. So those of you that have never commingled or drop shipped, what I would recommend is test, test, test. We're all in the business of testing. So if you've got 100,000 piece mailing, I would segregate that and send half to commingle and send half to local entry point, of course, tracking it. That's a great way to get results is, if you're not totally comfortable to turn on the faucet, test, test, test. I think that's an excellent way to get started if you have any skepticism about either a vendor that you're using and or local entry versus commingle.
That's fantastic.
Great point, Deb.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also thanks to Sue Wood, who put in the chat that the DMAW is actually holding the DM 101 starting on March 8th. And we'll actually have some of our PMG family members presenting, in that we're sponsoring that week-long workshop as well. So we highly recommend that, as we are big supporters of the DMAW. So good point. Thank you, Sue. And then I just wanted to put the next slide about our upcoming sessions that we're putting on, more free sessions. So we have MMI Direct doing the acquisition data merge purge session on March 23rd. And then after that, the PMG team will be doing a session on direct mail print production. And that's specifically on the print aspect. So papers and inks and the printing process and folding and all of those things. So kind of a deep dive into that area. So we're really excited about that as well. And that's all we have right now. Again,
Oh, but we're going to do our trivia.
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. Yes, we're giving away 2 $25 gift cards, and we would love for you to put your answers in the chat. And sometimes it's so rapid fire that we have to analyze the chat log afterwards, and we'll get back to you if you've won the prizes. But we've got 2 questions for you. I'll do the first one, and then Elise, you're going to do the second one.
Sure.
Okay, so the first one is, what is one of the best actor nominees for the Golden Globe Awards? So we'll wait a few moments.
Yep.
Wow, I guess that was a tough one.
All right. Oh, here we go.
Another one, good. We'll wait just a couple more moments here. And then people can still answer for both questions.
Yep.
Because Elise, go ahead with your next
Okay,
question.
this is very exciting, guys. So everybody hold on to your seats. Please give us the dimensions, the first person in with the dimensions of a number 10 envelope. Go.
People are like Googling right now.
Awesome.
All righty.
We'll let them come in. All right. This is great.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Go ahead, Elise and Debbie.
Wrap it up.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you all again. I know that, we're all in the same situation. This has been a really tough time. I hope that we get to be in person soon, maybe at the big event, our national, our annual during the summer conference. If that's possible to do it part virtually, part in person, that would be amazing to see you all. And thank you so much for your time. I know this is hard. You probably already had 4 other Zoom calls this morning. And so we really appreciate you taking out the time to be with us today. And please let us know if we can ever be a resource to you. Just, give us a call, shoot us an email, whatever works best.
Thanks for joining us today. And I'm just going to part with postage, postage, postage.
Good job, Deb.
All
Thanks,
right.
you guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks for your comments.
Great job. Great job.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.